So if you're in your 40s and 50s and are thinking that there must be more to life, that there's something missing from the way you're working and the way you're living, but you feel hemmed in by responsibilities, you may still have money left on your mortgage to pay off, you may have older children who are still dependent on you, and you may even be a director or own your own business, and so those responsibilities feel like they're hemming you in. Advice like, just take the leap, have faith in your passion, are pretty poor steps, in my opinion, pretty bad advice, because it feels just like very, very risky to blow your life up like that. And so what I wanted to do in this video is share 3 things that have really helped guide me in my transition over the past few years. And those 3 things are mindset, mission, and momentum. And I'll go into detail in all those 3 and what they are and how they've helped me. Because 10 years ago, I was the managing director and co-owner of my own brand consultancy, quite a large brand design consultancy here in Edinburgh. And today I'm a published author. I have an online course with an online community. I'm making YouTube videos, and I've even gone back to DJing. So I'm a gigging DJ. In fact, I've got a gig tomorrow. So I just wanted to share that journey with you and how those 3 tools have helped me navigate that transition. And at the end of this video, I've got an offer and a tool that I'd like to share with you, because I think that could help you if you're in that situation, thinking about change but not sure what to do or how to go about it. A tool that will help you transform from who you were to who you're meant to become and ease you into that next stage of your journey. So hope you enjoy the video. Well, for most people, the story starts with a sense of discomfort. So there's usually an uneasiness or a restlessness that something's missing, and feeling slightly lost, and the things that used to make you happy don't make you happy anymore. And you just feel like, well, this can't be it. There must be more to life than this. And that discomfort is a sign that there's something new that wants to emerge. There's a new you that wants to become out into the world. And that was certainly my situation a few years ago. So I was the managing director and co-owner of a large brand consultancy here in Edinburgh. It was a great business. We had 55 people working there. We were making good money. We had great clients, a good culture, really good reputation. We were winning awards. And yet something was really amiss in here. I wasn't feeling right. I didn't feel good. And that discomfort and restlessness was getting stronger and stronger. But rather than dig into it and think about, well, what is this, and explore it in more detail, I chose to distract myself and numb those uncomfortable feelings through alcohol. And lots of people do that. Some people numb their feelings through gambling or shopping or working even harder just to distract themselves. I used alcohol, but unfortunately that led to a really serious drink problem. And by 2016, I ended up in rehab twice, and I was actually asked to leave the business, which was quite right. But I was then lost and thrown out into the world without my business. My identity was as a managing director. So what do I do now? And I had to find a new direction. And that situation was made even worse, much, much worse, when unfortunately my wife was diagnosed with cancer, and she passed away after a short few months of illness. And so that just compounded the problem. I was not only directionless and didn't have a job or a steady income, I now was a single parent of 4 children and had a lot of responsibility there. And that's when I found a sort of a solution through the 12-step program of recovery. Now, what that gave me was a discipline to deal with life without the numbing, without the alcohol. And it also gave me a philosophy of working one day at a time. So approaching life and tackling life's problems with what's in front of you. And that gave me this idea of iteration. So the transition that I've been on over this past few years hasn't been one of make a big leap and do something very risky to follow your passion. It's been one of steady incremental change towards a goal or towards a vision of who I want to become, and managing that on a day-to-day basis. And that grounding, the grounding of being able to deal with the emotions and discomfort, have been transformational for me in understanding who I am at the deepest level. And so the first pillar, I guess, of this process, which is mindset, is very much grounded on the principles of who you are at the deepest level and learning to understand your emotions and the stories you tell yourself. And so we'll dig into that in a bit more detail now. So the first pillar is mindset. And mindset is all about helping us deal with two particular challenges that will always come up across as part of our journey. And the first issue or first barrier is fear, and the second one is doubt and confusion. And the way that I was taught to deal with these two things through the 12-step program was to bundle a few tools together in a structured morning routine. And so from day one, as part of my journey, what I did was I had a morning routine. I set aside an hour or two every morning to do meditation, to do a bit of journaling, to do some exercise, and go for a walk in nature and listen to something inspirational. And so those groundings are so important because the discipline of spending time in silence, in contemplation, allows us to really understand who we are at the deepest level. Because when we understand who we are, then we understand what we want. And when we understand what we want, then that's how we can act towards that sort of envisioned future. And so the first thing I'd think of in terms of practical tools in helping you move through this transition that you're thinking of is establish a morning routine. Establish a routine where you can spend time, quiet time on your own, without phones, without disruption, just meditating if you can, or walking in nature, or just listening to inspirational things that help you think about the bigger things in life. And that is a really good grounding for the next stage, which is then articulating what your mission might be. So once you've got a settled mind through the mindset activities, the next phase is mission. And that's really just articulating or being clear with yourself about what your purpose in life is. And I don't want people to get sort of confused or caught up in the language of mission, calling, purpose, what have you. This is really just about understanding and being clear with yourself what is meaningful for you. Now, the big thing that I learned over the past few years is that there is this belief or fallacy that you have sort of one sense of purpose. You have a purpose and that is your calling, and off you go and do it. But I've come to realize that it's not quite as simple as that. And I think it could probably be sort of drawn down into three things that people in general I find very meaningful in their life. And the first one is their work. It's about sense of achievement, of being full of agency, being able to do things in the world, creatively expressing yourself and making an impact. And certainly I was very drawn to that as my role as a managing director, and I still am. That's very important to me, is that I'm out there doing and progressing and growing. And so that's a source of meaning for me. Then there's also a sense of meaning that comes through family, relationships. And again, that's very important for people. And as I transitioned into that role as a single parent, that family unit was very important to me, and keeping that family unit, nurturing that family unit was very, very important. And so that was a source of meaning for me. And then there is this sense of calling, this sense of cause, which may be working for a charity, or it might be some sort of religious belief or something like that, but it's a bigger calling in life that you feel drawn to be of service to. And I think these three things are going on all the time. And I think during the mission phase of the transition, what you're trying to do is just make sense of that. Because again, for me, I had this sense, well, I need to earn money. I enjoyed working. I want to earn money. I got this sense that I want to grow and evolve and build things. So that's important. But I also I want to look after the kids and nurture them and support them and help them grow and get on their own journey. And then I also have this cause. As I was going through the 12-step program, there was this idea of being of service to others and helping others that found themselves in a similar situation. So I wanted to help people who had other addictions, and now I want to help people who not just if we're struggling with addiction transitions, but all big transitions, especially in midlife in your 40s and 50s, where it can feel quite difficult because you're juggling all these different things. And so to start with, I thought I had to choose one. I thought I had to work, or I had to focus on the kids, or what have you. And certainly there's a balance to be had there. But the key point is it's not wrong to find meaning in different areas of your life. And actually, as you go through this transition, it's being aware of those different things and saying that's okay. It's okay that I am focusing on this part of my life because that's about work and growth and earning an income. But I also want to balance that with the family and my relationships. And I also want to do something of meaning. And if you can combine some of those, all the better. And so being aware of that and being honest about what's important. If work is very important to you and your calling isn't, fine, that's not a problem. It's just being clear with yourself. And you can only be clear about that if you've done the mindset stuff, if you're free of the stories that you've picked up from other people. Because I, as a managing director, had this story of success, which was all about financial growth and accumulating things. And it was only after I was forced into that transition, when I was then looking at myself, that I realized, well, I was successful from the outside, but it didn't feel successful. And that's when I realized that actually my true meaning comes from other things which aren't just financial. In fact, money is important, but it's not a source of meaning for me. And so being clear about that, being clear about my mission, and being clear about how I can bring that into the world was what happens as part of that mission phase. And so for you now, if you're thinking about making that transition, I would say, take the time to look at that. What is meaningful for you? How do you help people? What are your money needs? What do you like doing from a work point of view? What about your relationship? So all these things, and be honest about what gives you meaning. Because once you've got a clear idea of what gives you meaning, then you can go on to the final part, which is momentum, and taking it out into the world. So momentum is all about bringing stuff into the world. So once you've got an idea of your mission or what's calling you, and you've got some sort of balance about the different things that give you meaning, what you need to do is act on it. There's no point knowing that and not doing anything. And again, this is where fear and doubt can come into situation, where it will stop us doing things that we really want to do because of the stories that we're telling ourselves from our past, from our childhood, about what other people think we should do rather than what we feel we should do. And so the way that I've made that transition from a managing director to an author, which is the book here, which I have here, The Habits of Happiness, which is available on Amazon, and the online course that I do. I've also retrained as a B Corp consultant, so helping businesses go through a B Corp process. And these are my decks. And so I used to be a DJ back in the 90s. I then rediscovered my love of mixing, bought some decks, and this year have done 4 gigs. Who would have thought that 18 and 21-year-olds, my daughters and all her friends, love 90s dance music? Well, there we go, they do. And so, but I did all those things, the book, the course, the DJing, all came about of just trying things, putting myself out there, saying, yes, I can write a book. I will find time to write a book. I'll find time to publish it. I'll find time to help people help me on that journey. I will discover what sort of things I want to teach online. I will find a community. I will create a community. I will tell people I'm DJing now. I will do a gig. I will offer to help at someone else's 18th. I've got I'm DJing tomorrow. So all these things are just putting stuff out into the world to see how people react to it. Because obviously throughout this loop of mindset, mission, and momentum, what we're trying to do is work day by day closer towards our true selves, the thing that wants to emerge, leaving our old self behind, our old identity, going through this messy middle bit, and coming out and rediscovering and experiencing what it feels like to be the person we're meant to become. And I guess that sort of messy middle, this sense of although I've explained it as a sort of a linear path, it's not. It's very interconnected. And so the final thing I want to talk about was the interrelationship of these three pillars as you move through this transition period. And I think that's what's useful about this model using these three pillars, is that it's not a linear path, because it always goes back to one part informing the other. And what I found was that, for example, when you get into experimenting, you're in that momentum phase and you're trying things out, you'll be hit by fear and doubt. You're not sure if it's the right thing. You'll get some feedback that you don't like. And so you need to go back into your mindset routine to settle down, to just recalibrate, who am I? Where are these stories coming from? Is this genuine, something I should genuinely listen to, or is that just an old story of fear? And then also, if you get some feedback that is genuine, it might alter your mission, or it might alter the next experiment you do. So it's very much an iterative going between the mindset to the mission to the momentum back to mission, back to mindset, on and on and on. And I guess that's the thing that I really want to get across here, is that at any particular point that you can get stuck in one of these areas. You can't see it yourself, but I know for a long time I was stuck in a momentum phase where I just wasn't willing to put things out there because I was too scared of what people would say, the fear of what others might think of me. What will they think that I'm now? I used to be this managing director. Who does he think he is, writing a book talking about midlife transitions? And so you really got to be aware of those stories, and because they can block you and block that journey. And that brings me on to the tool that I talked about at the end. So what I've created is something called the Midlife Rebuild Project Kickstarter. And what it is it's an interview that I've set up, and you can do it via ChatGTP or through a Google Doc. But basically, you get interviewed, you talk your answers, and it's a structured interview. I've created about 37 questions that really dig into where you are at the moment, the blockages you're finding, how you work best, what gives you meaning. And it takes about 40 minutes to go through all the questions, which may sound quite long, but actually, it's just less than an episode of watching something on Netflix. And then if you send that and share that document with me, or you share the chat with me, I will then create a bespoke report for you, which tells you through the lens of mindset, mission, and momentum, what's happening in your life, where you're stuck, and actually what the future might look like. And I'll present a few different scenarios of what might move you forward, and a 30-day action plan of how you might make some steps, again, in next steps for mission, next steps for momentum, next steps for mindset. And so you'll find the link in the description below, and I'd love for you to try it out. Again, if you're at that stage in your 40s or 50s where you're feeling like there's just this next stage of life waiting to happen, then give this a go, because it just could unlock a lot for you. And actually, it's a great example of momentum, of doing something, moving forward, revealing something about yourself, and taking the next step to that future you. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.